Welcome back and welcome in to another edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast. We are back. We've taken a month off. If you forgot my name, it's Jason Goldstein. If you forgot my beloved co-host name, it's Ben McDonald. We've missed all of you so much, but before we welcome back you guys in another time, I have to ask my buddy Ben, in these crazy times that we're living in, how are you doing? It's been a few weeks.
I'm doing well. There's an obvious quarantine aspect to all of this that my wife Flo and I are safe and sound. We are here in the house a lot, but otherwise we're doing very well. Thank you for asking. And more importantly, Jason, how are you?
I'm doing much better. So I'm just gonna come out with it. Thankfully, it wasn't that serious, but I did test positive for COVID-19. We originally, because our last show was March 10th, and that was the night that after we stopped recording, everything just collapsed in the NBA and in the sports world because right after we finished recording, Rudy Gobert tested positive, and then the NBA shut down the next day. So the last time we spoke on air, there was still NBA basketball. So Ben and I decided to take a short hiatus, and then a couple days later, I started not to feel well. So I think it was the first weekend of spring. I had a fever over 100, and because I knew some people that were exposed to the virus, I ended up getting tested. I got the call 2 Tuesdays ago that I was positive. My quarantine's over, thankfully. I mean, I'm not ending my quarantine, but I'm not confined to my bedroom anymore. I'm feeling much better. It was a mild case. For those interested, I had every symptom but trouble breathing. Thankfully, my lungs were clear. I had fever of 101. I had body aches, my lower back, my stomach, my head right behind my eyes. I had coughing. I had chest tightness. I don't know if that was anxiety related or not, but I had almost every symptom, and it was not fun. But I'm very grateful that it was more mild than severe, because people our age, dude, we're both born in 90. Unfortunately, people are passing away, and our heartfelt thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected by this virus, everyone that is no longer with us because of this virus, and just the loved ones of everyone who the world has lost so far. Shout out to first responders, doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, first responders, people that are delivering food to supermarkets for people to wait online. From the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you. And I'm just grateful. I'm back healthy. Like I said, originally you and I were going to take this time and just kind of relax, and then I ended up getting sick. So we missed 3 weeks, but I think we're going to be back weekly now, and I'm just happy that I'm feeling healthy and strong again.
Yeah, and I know I speak for everyone at home, and obviously myself and Flo, Jason, when we say we're so glad to see you back healthy. And for those of you who can't see Jason, he looks great. So he's doing great, looking great, and I think there's going to be many baseline jumpers to come, my friend.
You know what hit me when I knew I was sick? So I made this video. Did you see the Fast and Furious movies?
Did I see the Fast and Furious? What kind of question is that? Am I American?
So, you know the song See You Again from Furious 7 with Paul Walker passing away? So I made this video as a joke with the instrumental in the background announcing that I have coronavirus, just to send to my friends, to be funny, because my friends and I are just, we love having fun. And then I sent it to my girlfriend's 17-year-old cousin, Griffin, and he's like a TikTok celebrity, the app TikTok all the kids use now. So he posted it and was like, pray for my cousin. And I didn't have TikTok. I've never made one, but I went on to see the post, and I'm like, he just posted my video, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually sick. Usually I'm praying for other people. That's when it really hit me that something was wrong. I didn't take any time off work. There were days in the afternoon where I would, have to lay down at 2:00 because I'd get really lightheaded, or I would start getting achy. But I'm very thankful that I'm back and healthy. I started going on walks and continuing the social distance and going to the supermarket, for my family when need be. But yeah, other than that, man, it's been a scary couple of weeks, but I'm glad that you're out in Pittsburgh and there's not as much volume over there as it is coastal. So you and Flo are doing okay. I have other family in Pittsburgh as well. So I'm glad that you guys are social distancing. You're both able to work from home and save on gas. Got to look at the positives. But it's crazy. Like, you and I have been doing a basketball podcast for 2.5 years, and like this is the first time that we just don't have any basketball, and that's the least of our problems. Like, yes, of course we miss it. I miss the NBA more than anything. I obviously wish baseball was going on. And outside of NFL free agency, which your Dolphins did a great job, by the way, there really has been no non-coronavirus related news going on. So it was a good time to take a break. But at the same time, like, I wasn't healthy enough to do a show, and I thank God that I am now.
And we're so glad to have you back. And speaking of this, we're going to be doing, for the folks of you at home, this was our first of what we're going to tentatively call our kind of Corona stories. And we're going to share our experiences because we know a lot of people at home are struggling. And it's important to both, like Jason just did, educate people at home of what to expect, some of the things that are going on, and hear some of it firsthand, but also it's nice to just know what other people are going through and know that you're not alone. So that's something we're going to endeavor to do going forward. But at the same time, Jason, I got to be honest with you. I've missed just getting to talk some hoops with you, get to talk a little bit about basketball and have a distraction from all the stuff that's going on. Because honestly, I think one of the things we forget about is how much sports can be a distraction from real life when real life is less than ideal. And so I've missed being able to have this time every week to talk with you, my friend. And we thought this week that it might make sense to talk a little bit about the season that's gone by because, there's news reports out now that they want to finish the season and crown a champion by September. That doesn't leave a lot of time. It sounds like a lot of time, but the playoffs span a few months. You're going to have to potentially have a couple regular season games, but it's pretty likely at this point nothing's going to get started in the NBA till at least June. That would mean they'd have to almost start the playoffs right away or have a very abbreviated regular season. So the odds are that we have pretty much seen the end of the regular season in the NBA. And before we get into our awards and stuff, Jason, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, at this point, that does seem likely. I mean, baseball is targeting maybe May, and even that, they're hedging and saying it might actually be June. I mean, there's a chance that this is the last we're going to see of basketball this year.
Well, it'd be tough for them not to crown a champion. And baseball, there's rumblings of all 30 teams going to Arizona and playing in empty stadiums. And my initial thought about the NBA was I was actually looking forward to seeing a game on television with no fans in the stands because that Tuesday night, the Nets actually beat the Lakers in LA, and they were supposed to go to Golden State. That was supposed to be Kevin Durant's return. He was traveling with the team. And 4 Nets players ended up testing positive for coronavirus. And I give the organization so much credit because none of those names were released except for KD. And he was asymptomatic and he chose to announce it. Then you had Christian Wood, you had Marcus Smart, you had Donovan Mitchell, and of course, Rudy Gobert. I think without him, we may have gotten that opportunity to see an empty arena on television with these games being played. I know he's not very well liked right now in NBA circles because he broke that trust and he did that stupid thing where he was touching all the microphones and then he wound up being the first player to test positive. I'm thankful he recovered. But once this is all over and we get back to some sort of normalcy, I don't think that fans and players, because they're a brotherhood, will be able to look at Rudy Gobert the same because of what he did. And I do think that if there are games, I mean, it's not fair to the Giannis's, the LeBrons, the guys that are on a clock here. Like Giannis is playing for a deal. LeBron's playing to get more rings on the back nine of his career. Guys like Chris Paul, leading the Thunder to the playoff. These guys are not going to be around forever, and wasting another year where they can compete at this level would be tough. I do think that will springboard into next season. If you have the finals end by September, you start the regular season on Christmas, which will be good because people will pay attention now that the NFL will be kind of dying down. It's just going to be a weird time for the world, not just sports. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what goes down. But those are my pretty much thoughts. I mean, we haven't talked on air in a few weeks, and so much has gone down, with these coronavirus stories. So it's been interesting.
There's so much going on, and there's still so much uncertainty. I mean, that's the thing that's crazy is you said it. There's all this stuff going down, but we still don't know anything. And anyone who's making guesses, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. So I've been listening to ESPN Daily recently. Mina Kimes had Jeff Passan on, and he was interviewing one of the pitchers who's in the KBA, the Korean Baseball League. They're the first ones that are thinking to resume, and they're going to do this trial period. But they said if one person, one athlete, one general manager, one janitor, one doctor, one food person, one security guard, one anything gets sick in the trial period, that's it. They're delaying it another bunch of weeks. So there's this fragility to this whole thing where we have these ideas. I mean, baseball is talking about going to Arizona. If one person tests positive, it's going to be a thing. Forget about it. 4 people, like with the Nets. Like if one person tests positive in those first couple games, it's going to become a major issue, and baseball's going to have to reckon with it. And it's what happened in China. They were trying to bring back the Chinese basketball league, and the government freaked out. And I think this is one of those situations where I think the NBA is actually playing it pretty smart right now, because whatever league decides to go first is going to have a ton of problems. They're going to have to figure out a bunch of stuff really, really quickly. And I think one part of this that people are maybe in sports circles, maybe I don't want to say underestimating, but the public response to doctors taking care of baseball players and being there to test them, which they will need to do, they'll have to test them before every game. Everyone means you're going to have medical staff there. That is not going to be a great public reaction. There's
no, because it's taking away from people that are on ventilators fighting for their lives.
It's not a great look. That's basically not a great look if you're doing that in the midst of a crisis, which means the reality is they can't do this until the crisis calms down.
Well, it wasn't a great look that all these teams in the NBA were getting the entire rosters tested, and then you had just common people, not knowing whether or not they were healthy, which is scary. Like, how did they have all these tests for all 30 NBA teams that were traveling or that played the Jazz, and it's a ripple effect because the Jazz played the Bulls played the Nets played the Lakers. Like, where did all these tests come from? I know money talks, but the fact that you were able to test the entire traveling party for these NBA teams and everyone else is struggling to get their nose swabbed, which burned like hell, by the way. They take the swab through my car window into an urgent care, and they just stick both my nostrils with this swab, and it burned like tears coming down my face. And NBA players got it first. I just wish Joe Harris, my good friend, would have called me and told me how it was, because I had no idea what it was going to feel like.
You were unprepared, and you would have expected him to be a friend in that situation. Little disappointed. Friend of the podcast, Joe Harris. Jason's expecting an apology.
I still want him re-signed, though. I still want him re-signed. He cannot have played his last game as a Brooklyn Net. But at any rate, getting back to potential basketball, Adam Silver spoke on Monday, and by the way, he's expecting a kid. So he's going to have a child born in New York City in mid-May is his wife's due date, and just going to be born into like a war zone, pretty much is what New York City's turned into. So you have to feel for all the families that are expecting children, at this time. I have friends and family that are expecting, and I'm sure it's not easy, but he said that they may have a decision early May, which gives them a month to plan, to find venues. You might just have it NCAA tournament style, where all the teams play in one arena with no fans. And I do think that that's the easiest out of the 4 major sports to pull off because of the roster size. If you include the 12, 13 players, the coaching staff, that's almost the same amount as an active baseball roster, not including the coaches. So I do think the NBA has the best shot of coming back. I just don't know how it's going to look when it does.
I am going to actually, we're going to start off with some disagreement. I think baseball is the best position from a roster standpoint, but they are the most susceptible from an environmental standpoint, because they can't play in, why don't we say 3/4, 2/3 of their cities if the season pushes too late. That's a problem. They're an outdoor sport that is going to have to find